Welcome to lecture 17 of International Finance, and this is our last lecture on the topic of international arbitrage. So here we are going to see one more example on covered interest arbitrage. This one is different from the previous examples that we have covered. Then we are going to compare these types of arbitrage, the three types of arbitrage. And one last thing that we are going to cover is interest rate parity. Right? Okay. So starting with this example, in previous examples we didn't had bid or ask quote. But you know that in case of triangular arbitrage and locational arbitrage, we would first explore the simple example, and then we would delve into the bid and ask quotes. So here we have a euro currency and its spot rate, bid spot rate and ask spot rate. Then we have the forward rates. We have the deposit rates and for dollar and the interest rate for euro. Then we have loan rate. So if you are going to deposit, then you would get 6%. If you are going to get a loan, then you would have to pay 9%. And the question is whether covered interest arbitrage exists or not. And if yes, how many dollars will you earn, or what will be the percentage return? The only difference between in this question and the previous questions is that we would have to use the ask and bid quotes, right? In previous example, we didn't had ask bid. We just had one simple rate. So imagine we have $1 lakh. We first need to convert these dollars into euros. So we need to convert dollars into euros. Why do we need to do that at first place? Because the interest rate in US is 6%. So if we deposit this $1 lakh in US bank, we just get 6%. But if we deposit this 1 lakh by converting it into euros in a bank in a euro in Europe or Eurozone, then we get 6.5%. Obviously, we would want to earn 6.5%. So what do we need to do first? First, we have dollars. We need to convert them into euros. At which rate would we get euros? Okay, these rates are bank's buying price. Remember, which currency? Euro. So bank would buy euro from us at 1.12. And this ask is the selling price of the bank of euro. So bank, if we are going to buy euros, then bank would sell it to us at this price. Remember the bid ask price, the bid ask spread. Bank buys the currency at lower price and sell it at higher price. So if we are going to convert this into euros, then that means we are going to buy euros. And if we are going to buy euros, the bank would sell it at this rate and not at this rate. So this is the way forward. So that's why we use this rate. We convert it into euros. We got 88,496 euros. Then we need to convert these, we need to deposit these euros into a bank to earn the interest. The interest in euro zone was 6.5%. So how much would we have? The principal and the interest amount combined, we would have 94,248 euros. Now what do we need to do? Obviously we need dollars. Dollars is our home currency. So we want to convert these euros back into dollars. Now which rate should we use? Remember, now we are selling euros. So we are going to, and we have already done a forward contract. If you have watched previous video, you will understand what I am talking about. So we have already entered into a forward contract, and we would buy the bank would buy euros from us at this rate. So this would become our selling price of euro. So if we want to convert these euros back into dollars, then we would have to use this rate, and we get 1,05,558 dollars. Now, was investing in euro, was depositing our money in euro better, or should we have deposited this amount, this $1 lakh, into a US bank and earned 6%, right? Which one would have been better? Let's calculate the rate of return. So how do we calculate rate of return? It's our simple formula, current minus previous divided by previous. So currently we have this amount, previously we invested, divided by the investment, we get or 5.55. So that means if we do this whole procedure, we would just get 5.55%. Shouldn't we have rather deposited this $1 lakh into a US bank and had earned 6%? Wouldn't it have been better? Obviously. So that means in this case, for a US investor, covered interest arbitrage do not exist. Let me repeat it. CIA does not exist. For whom? For the US investor trying to do the covered interest arbitrage. It might exist for an investor living in a eurozone, but who's having euros, but not for the one who is having dollars, right? Because he would first have to convert and then reconvert it, and this investor would lose some amount by doing that. Okay, let's compare these three theories. So locational arbitrage, it capitalizes on the changes in the exchange rate at different location. Triangular arbitrage, it capitalizes, gives an opportunity to earn profit on the changes, discrepancies, deviations in the cross exchange rate, and we saw the cross calculated and the quoted cross exchange rate. And lastly, covered interest arbitrage capitalizes on the difference between the forward rate and the interest rate differential. Due to this location arbitrage, what would happen is that the prices at different location would be same, and this is what it says, that location arbitrage ensures that the quoted exchange rates are similar at different banks or locations. The triangular arbitrage would ensure that the cross exchange rate are similar. And lastly, the covered interest arbitrage would ensure that the forward rates are properly set. Okay. So we are done with the arbitrages. Let's move to a new concept which is related to covered interest arbitrage. That's why we are discussing it in this lecture. It's called interest rate parity, or IRP. By parity, we mean equality. Why is that called equality? But we would come to know in a while once we explore this concept. But in simple words, IRP is a situation when there is no CIA. For clarity, by CIA I means covered interest arbitrage. Okay, so interest rate parity is a situation when there is no covered interest arbitrage, and we know that forward discount is when the forward rate is less than the spot rate and forward premium is when the forward rate is greater than spot rate. Now, why do we need to explain this forward discount and premium? Because we know that due to changes in this covered interest arbitrage, investors exploiting covered interest arbitrage, the forward rate would change. Let's move towards an example and then we would understand. The forward premium of the foreign currency should be under the condition of arbitrage. What this is saying is that the forward rate, let's call it calculated forward rate, if it is equal to the forward rate in the market, right, then there would be a situation which would be called IRP, right, interest rate parity. And if this is not the case, then there would be an opportunity for covered interest arbitrage. So we know where do we get this from the market quotations. Obviously we need to find this. For that, first we need to find P, and P stands for forward premium or discount, right? It's written P, but it stands for both this discount and the premium. In case of premium, the answer would be in positive. In case of a discount, the answer would be negative. How do we find this premium? The formula is 1 plus IH, and IH stands for interest in home currency or home country, interest rate, and IF stands for interest rate in foreign currency, foreign country, right? Minus 1. Once we find P, we would then use this equation, which is to find forward rate. This F stands for forward rate, and this would be S into, S is spot rate, the current price in the market, into 1 plus the P that we have calculated over here. Once we find this F, and this should be the F for the IRP to exist. This should be the forward rate in the market for CIA not to exist. Let me repeat myself. This calculated forward rate should be the rate in the market. If this is the rate in the market, then there would be no opportunity for the investors to exploit covered interest arbitrage. And this situation would be called interest rate parity. Now you know what do we mean by parity, equality. Okay, so if the actual forward rate is different from this derived forward rate, this derived forward rate is what we just called calculated forward rate, and this actual forward rate is what we might call the forward rate in the market or the quoted forward rate. Right? If they are different, there may be a potential for covered interest arbitrage. That means in that case, the covered interest arbitrage is possible if they are different then. Or the forward premium discount should be equal to the interest rate differential, and this is interesting. So we find this P using the formula that was given in previous slide. Or using this equation. So it says that this premium should be equal to interest rate differential. By differential we mean difference. When this P is equal to the interest rate differential, then CIA does not exist and it is interest rate parity. So P is F minus forward rate minus spot rate divided by spot rate, should be equal to this, and differential is the difference between the interest rate in home country and interest rate in foreign country. So let's explore this using example. Suppose a 6 months contract, forward contract. The interest rate on pesos is 6%, it is a Mexican currency. And interest rate on dollars is 5%. In US it's 5%. If the spot rate is 1 peso is equal to $0.1, then determine the forward premium and what should be the forward rate for IRP to exist. What it is saying is that if there is equality, if there is parity, then what should be the forward premium and what should be the forward rate? So forward premium P is equal to 1 plus IH divided by 1 plus IF minus 1. So this would be, now we are assuming that this is our home country. This book is written from the perspective, or these slides are made from the perspective of US investors. So you always assume dollars is our home currency or home country if otherwise stated. So this would be 1 plus 0.05 divided by 1 plus 0.06, that is the interest rate of foreign country or currency, minus 1, and we get 0.0094, or this would be in minus or minus 0.94% negative. So that means discount. By minus we mean discount, right? So by discount we simply means that the forward rate would be less than the spot rate, and this is what we explained over here. See, the forward rate would be less than the spot rate. Okay, so we have calculated the premium. Now we need to calculate the forward rate, which is equal to spot rate into 1 plus the premium that we have just calculated. So spot rate is 0.10 into 1 minus right, plus minus 0.0094, right? This would give us dollars 0.9906. So what it said is determine forward premium. Forward premium is negative 0.94. What should be the forward rate for IRP to exist? For IRP to exist, this should be the forward rate. The forward rate should be 0.9906, and you can see that forward rate is 0.9906, which is less than the spot rate of 0.10. So in this case, if this is the forward rate in the market, then there would be no covered interest arbitrage opportunity, and we would call that situation as IRP, interest rate parity. Okay, this graph just explains the idea of interest rate parity. So so when the interest rate differential, the home country's, let's say, interest rate is 6% and the foreign country's interest rate is 5%, then the differential is plus 1%. So that means this point over here. Then the forward premium should be 1%, this C point. If the interest rate differential is 2%, then the forward premium should be 2%. If interest rate differential is in negative 1%, then the forward discount should be 1%. This is the discount quadrant. So what this explains is that the premium should be equal to approximately the interest rate differential that we discussed in minus. P should be approximately equal to IH minus IF. So that means that it would exist on this IRP line. All these points which do not exist on IRP line, it means that there is an opportunity of covered interest arbitrage and there is no interest rate parity. Lastly, assume that the existing US 1-year interest rate is 10%. This is a home interest rate, and the Canadian 1-year interest rate is 10%. Also assume that the interest rate parity exists. Should the forward rate of Canadian dollar exhibit discount or premium? Now, it is not, you can do it numerically, but it is quite simple, and we have just seen in previous example. The interest rate is higher in Canada as compared to the home country. So IH minus IF would be -1. So what should the Canadian dollar exhibit? Should it be for premium or discount? We know it should be forward discount, right? And the discount should be equal to -1%. So the Canadian dollar forward rate should exhibit discount because its interest rate exceeds US interest rate for IRP to exist. It initially said that IRP should exist. If US investor attempt covered interest arbitrage, what would be their return? Now, this is interesting. When IRP exists, when there is interest rate parity, and there is no possibility of covered interest arbitrage, then even if the US investor tries for covered interest arbitrage, their return on investment would be equal to what they can earn in home country. Similarly, if Canadian investor tries to exploit the covered interest arbitrage because it doesn't exist, then the return would be equal to what the investor could have earned in his home country. So the US investor attempt covered interest arbitrage, what would be their return? Their return would be 10%. And if Canadian dollar attempted covered interest arbitrage, what would be their return? It would be 11%. When we say that IRP exists, then it also means that it also means that there is no CIA, no covered interest arbitrage. And what this means is that if someone tries to exploit covered interest arbitrage, because it isn't there, they won't be able to exploit it. So any US investor trying to do covered interest arbitrage would exactly earn what they would have earned in their home country. Any Canadian investor trying to do covered interest arbitrage would earn exactly what they would have earned in their home country. So they won't try for covered interest arbitrage. Lastly, these are some questions that I would suggest you go through. And if there is any query in these questions, you can always come back to me.